Hello, I am William Jamar Wright,
And I'm Hattie.
and this is our podcast, HattieJo. What are we doing? And this episode, we actually have my very good friend who I met during college, my college years, Tassy, to visit with us. How's it going, Tassy?
It's going all right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tassy is one of my good friends, as I said earlier, but we actually went to school together. So Tassy is also a dookie, a double dookie.
Yes.
We just got like double dookies everywhere. Like you
All
went
three of
to
us,
Duke
so fun.
for undergrad and
Physical therapy school.
physical therapy school.
Yeah.
And you were also a student athlete at Duke, correct?
I was.
You
It seemed
was?
so long ago. My body is telling me it's been a while.
Oh, as the days go by, I get little friendly reminders that
Yeah.
like you're not the elite athlete you once were, or the marginal athlete that you were. I wouldn't say I was ever elite.
Yeah, I think marginal.
Yeah.
Strong, quite strong. Is
Yeah.
probably appropriate.
Depending on how you look at things, some might classify me as a college athlete, but I don't really. So, from my perspective, just to get to like a good college athletics program, you have to be pretty elite. That's just my perspective. I
Thanks.
mean, your
Yeah.
program might not do a lot of winning, but
Ooh,
As for my case.
Ouch.
But so Tessie,
Love
where
that.
are you? Where are you from?
I'm originally from Maryland.
Maryland.
Yep, Prince George's County, right outside of Washington, D.C.
Nice.
Yes.
And
Family's
what
still there.
family still there?
Mhm.
How many siblings?
I have 2 sisters, 1 brother. They're all older than me, so I'm
you're
the
the
baby.
baby.
Yes, not spoiled.
Not spoiled.
And not a whole lot of perks came with being the youngest. Which
Well, you got to learn from all of your older siblings, like their mistakes, right? They
Mm.
handed
So
down some
what's
wisdom.
the gap?
So I have a sister who's 2 years older than me,
Mhm.
brother who's 4 years older than me, and then my older sister's 5 years older than me.
Okay, so you are all four of you pretty close.
Yeah.
So it's not like they got to do things, then you got to also do it. You didn't have to wait till you were their age.
No, I don't remember any of that.
No.
Yeah, I just remember.
No special treatment for the baby.
No, I remember riding in the car and always having to sit in the back, and I'm like, "What is this? This is not fair." The only time I got to sit in the front is if I was the only
one
child
yeah.
going on the trip, which never happened. Yeah,
Well,
Fair.
I'm not bitter at all.
well, as the youngest, you're the smallest, so it makes sense that you would sit in the back.
That wasn't necessarily the case.
It's the way I rationalize it.
Yeah,
As the oldest.
of course you would. I feel like I sprouted up.
Oh, we have like an older, the oldest, a middle child, and the youngest here. Yeah.
Do you guys feel like you had it the best, the worst?
Oh, I definitely had it the best.
Oh, I
Like,
definitely had it the worst. Absolutely. Oldest sibling got all the perks because they're the oldest. They can do all these things. Youngest sibling got all the attention. The youngest sibling, and I just got left behind. Actually, it was fine though because I just could do my own thing, and it was not a problem.
No, see, the big thing was you have to respect whoever's older than you. So I was like, well,
Of course.
That's everybody.
Yeah, who's respecting me? Like, this is not. Oh my god, this is working.
I'll tell you who's respecting you, your nieces and nephews.
They
Like,
didn't come along until I was in high school, but that is like, it's just me. And then I had the responsibility of watching them, and if I said no, maybe I can't, then it's like, well, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm like, what in the world? You just can't win.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
Shame things. Anyway.
So one thing that like you and I have discussed like numerous times over dinners and stuff like is that like you're an auntie. So how many nieces and nephews do you have?
I have 3 nieces, 1 nephew. So a set of twin nieces, we're 7.
Oh.
I have to show you guys a picture of them.
Yes,
They're very cute. My oldest niece is 15 in the 10th grade, which I'm like, when
Wow,
did that
yeah.
happen? She should still be 10.
Yes.
And then my nephew is 19. Is that right? 19.
Wow.
Wow.
Sophomore in college.
Wow. Good for
Jeez.
you.
Makes me feel very old.
What school is he at? You remember?
So he now goes to Prince George's Community College. So
Good
Nice.
for him.
not far from where my parents live, not far from where his parents live.
Cool.
Very cool.
Of course, Hattie is an aunt. You have a niece and a nephew.
2 little nibblings. So
And then
the official word is. I'm trying to make it a thing, but
it ain't gonna happen.
I like it. I
It's
usually
not
call
gonna
them
happen.
nuggets, but nibblings.
Nuggets works too.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we are not getting this. Like,
You don't have to approve.
you're
They're
right.
cute.
True.
Cute and little. Those are the only requirements for a ridiculous
Cute
nickname.
and little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little
Nice.
munchkins, whatever. Because of twins, I would call my nieces Twinkies.
Oh,
Twinkies.
yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
Are they fraternal or are they identical?
Fraternal.
Okay.
Though, if you ask my mom, she probably still has a difficult time differentiating one from the other. Like, they are not identical. The older they get, they look more different. But
Well, coming from a big family, I'm sure you can relate to this as being called the wrong name all the time. So I'm sure your mom with the Twinkies.
So you were called the wrong
Oh,
name?
yeah, and I'm the only girl, but I was called my brother's names all the time because it'd be like, Rob, Jeff, Patty, come here. Like, she'd just, or like...
Oh, I did not know this. I was never called the wrong name, but I guess Jamar as a young kid, like...
Well, I guess
Right.
my parents, like, in their brain, like, when you're like, will you hand me the, just your brain just kind of makes a little,
my mom and my sister tend to call my oldest niece, her name is Sade, so they'll call her when they mean to call me, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Because she's the youngest of 2, and I was the youngest of 4. I'm like, I don't get it, but
like this age gap, and I'm much older.
Yeah. Could be called worse names, right?
Yeah, true.
So, living up in, like, Maryland, like, what made you come down here to Duke and go to undergrad here?
So, for some reason, don't even ask why, I had in my mind that I wanted to go to school in North Carolina. I had never been to North Carolina before. Like, North Carolina seems like a cool state. Like, why? Don't know. I did not like Duke from what I knew of them on the basketball team. Like, I hated Duke.
Because we were probably always beating up on Maryland. But,
that was one of the questions I was going to ask. Was how did your family, if they're Maryland fans?
So they're Maryland fans just because that's where they live, but they're not. I mean, they're not diehard fans of anything except Washington Redskins.
Moving on.
But
not like there's a game today.
No, not
the
like
Cowboys just scored right before halftime.
Okay, settle down. Are we doing this?
Not right now.
Okay. So, yeah, I wanted to go to school in North Carolina for some reason. I applied to a bunch of different schools, and
so did you know that you also wanted to play volleyball? Or was that kind of like a benefit?
Yeah, so that was a perk. I wasn't really recruited out of high school to play volleyball. I was recruited for some small school in Maryland, but I understood that I wasn't going to college on a volleyball scholarship, and I was okay with that. My grades were good, and I had scholarships through other sources. And Duke, I want to say Duke is probably the last school that I applied to, and there was one scholarship that I got. It was pretty late. It was one of the Bill Gates Millennium Scholarships, where they would pay for. It's a need-based, but you had to have good grades, and they would pay for everything. Mm-hmm. Duke's a pretty expensive school, as we all know. And I remember when I got in, I was excited. It's like, cool. I was like, but that's expensive.
Yeah.
If you get your financial aid report, you're like, oh, okay, got a lot of loans on here. And I was,
where does it end? Page 6, page 7.
And I decided I knew I could go to college for free because my grades were good enough for me to do that. So I was not going to say, oh, this school's free, but I'm going to go to Duke. Right. No. I wasn't going to say, hey, Mom, Dad, you need to pay for this. Yeah. So actually, I would have ended up going to the University of Pittsburgh, which I'm glad I didn't because it's a little cold up there.
Really cold.
A lot cold up there. And then I got the scholarship, and I said, I guess we're going to Duke. Crazy thing, though, is they called me to ask if I wanted to do...
When they as Duke or they as the scholarship beneficiary?
Duke. Okay. They called me and said, do you want to do an interview with an alum? And I was like, is it required? And they said no. And I was like, then, I'm okay. Yeah. So a week later, I got a card in the mail saying, oh, thank you for applying. We regret that you decided to withdraw your application. I was like, whoa. Pause, back up. And I was like, I was like, what happened? So I remember my mom was driving me
I would
there.
have had a heart attack. Oh my god.
How does poor communication?
No, yeah.
Who's on the other end of this call? They should be fired. Get them out of there. So I remember driving to school and calling and saying, "Hey, I did not withdraw my application. I simply declined the optional interview. So please reinstate my application." And they did. And obviously, since I went there and graduated, everything was fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, "What is going on? Come on now." So before I came
Good for
down,
you for like calling them and being like,
Well, did you have, like, you were going to have a school to go to?
I mean, I was going to go to Pittsburgh, but I was like, if I could get to go to Duke, which I knew was a good
Right.
school,
Yeah.
right,
can't ruin that.
right.
So my mom and I came to visit probably a couple weeks before I even came down here.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see the lay of the land. But at that point, I was already committed. So it was like, if
Yeah.
I
I'm going to
hated
make this
it,
work.
like,
Too bad.
okay.
Yeah.
So then as far as volleyball goes, like I said, I was not recruited to play, certainly not for Duke. And my freshman year, I took a volleyball elective. And as it turns out, one of the assistant coaches at the time, Coach Waz, he was teaching that class. Now, I never expressed to him directly that I was interested in playing.
Yeah.
I was communicating with the head volleyball coach, who's, Jolene, who's still there now. And I would go to their games and just chat with her. And it wasn't until sophomore, second semester, where she said, well, if you're really interested, then you can come to the practices. They had individual sessions and then eventually practices. And I remember, sometimes in life is all about timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember my first day at practice was one girl's last day at practice.
Ooh.
I remember we were about to run laps, and one of the coaches said, hey, the coach wants to talk to you. That was the last time I saw her. I don't even know if I formally introduced myself to her, and I guess it didn't matter because she
was gone.
Yes.
No longer
She had to
member of this
exit,
team.
Yeah, exit stage left. So that meant that there was a spot. But it was a semester-long tryout, basically.
Oh, gosh.
So each day...
So was that really stressful? Or
It was, because I was also on the club volleyball team.
Oh.
And also, a student at Duke.
Yeah.
That's just what I was
Sounds
thinking
like
Yeah, so every day I would be told if I could come back. And then I was like, all right, you can come back next week. And then towards like
you can come back next week.
Yeah, and so initially it was an individual session.
So
and
they
it was team
didn't say to you,
practices.
like, we're having this semester as a trial period. It was literally on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis.
Sounds like being on the practice squad in an NFL team. Like,
Yes.
they literally, like, you go
They'll
for a
string you
week.
along.
The next week, you could come back. They could find somebody else. Like,
Yeah,
it
you
was
get paid for that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a little,
I know.
of course, a little different.
I'm
But
just, again, not being bitter at all. But
Sorry, we interrupted you.
it's fine. So it was, even some girls on the team were like, so has coach told you if you're, and I was like, no. And I didn't feel like I was in a position to be like, how long are we going to do this? How long is this charade going to go on? So the last month of the season, or excuse me, last month of the semester, we have tournaments, either locally or on campus or somewhere else. So when we got to that point, she said, you know what, we're going to let you play these tournaments. It's essentially another assessment period. But still...
But you're playing in an official capacity for the team.
So later, yes. I mean, yeah. So yes, and it didn't matter at the time because it's just like I'm just trying to.
Count towards the record or anything.
yeah.
It's just
like-
like spring practice, like everybody.
But later, it did count as part of my year of eligibility.
Evaluation, yeah.
Year of eligibility.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, I suppose if you're doing it, like, I don't know if they proposed it to you as, like, a walk-on or something, but, like, my understanding from Jen doing a walk-on, and I was interested in walking on to the track team at Duke. Did I ever tell you that?
I did not know
Yeah.
about this.
I, like, was emailing with the coach when I was in high school because I really wanted to do it. But anyway, the point is, there's a reason I did not go out for track. Like, let's just be real. You see me real. But the point is, like, the point
You can
is,
do distance.
well, I was really good at hurdles because I'm really flexible. Anyway, the point is, from my limited understanding, was like, once you're officially representing the team, like, you can't not be on the team to represent the team in an official capacity. Like, sure, they could kick you off at any moment, but, like, you can't go out and play in the tournament if you're not actually a member of the team.
Yeah, so Yes.
But they didn't make that clear to you at all?
No, and honestly, I don't know what... It wouldn't have necessarily mattered. I would have said, well, I know, because if you say I can join the team, I want that year of eligibility. I wasn't thinking like that.
Yeah.
No, but she didn't... Once the 4 tournaments were over, then she said, you know, we have a spot. We want to invite you to be a part of the team moving forward. So then it was like, hey, team, I'm on your team, by the way.
Been here all semester.
Yeah, so it was a weird process.
Yeah, that was a fascinating story.
But and I'll just say that it was an interesting process, and I don't know the better way to do it other than to communicate more clearly.
Yeah.
But I can certainly understand it. You're like, this is somebody new, not somebody I recruited.
Sure.
She's already here.
Right.
What should this tryout look like?
Right. And all of that makes sense from like the coach's perspective. I just what you said about the communication, that's shocking to me.
So later, going into my official senior year, I still had a year of eligibility. Now, you can say, well, I've only been playing 2 years, but technically because of that first semester, it counted as a year.
That full academic counted.
So then, by the end of it, it's like, all right, well, I still have a year of eligibility. What am I going to do with this? I was like, well, first, I'm not on a volleyball scholarship.
Yeah.
And unless there's money for that, or you find money somewhere else, I can't afford to go to gym. I got a scholarship to come here for 4 years.
Right.
And if I was going into a graduate program, maybe the options would be different. But that was never my trajectory.
Yeah,
it was like,
that was never part of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a point where I was like, all right, well, I have a year of eligibility left, but this is going to be it.
Yeah.
Timing again. We had people on the team who weren't happy being on the team, and a couple people quit. One girl being someone who had a scholarship. So I remember the coach. I think we had gone to the selection show. I don't think we definitely
What's
made
the selection
for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we go to dinner and watch. Even I'm like, pretty sure we're not going, but we went anyway. And so
there's always hope. The cheerleader there's always hope.
I remember the team being really, really good when I was here.
We certainly had seasons where we were really good, and we had seasons where we were not so good, and then seasons where we were mediocre. So
interesting.
My 5th year was actually the year that we were really good. That's when like Carrie, Allie.
Yes.
But anyway, after we watched the selection show, Coach said, she's like, "Hey, come sit with me in my car." And I'm like, off of 9th Street? It's dark. Like,
in the car?
Yeah.
Not like, let's
not in the office. No. This is like, who, looking back, is like, why? If not for the fact that I really enjoy playing volleyball, I'd be like, you know what? Deuces. This is not going to work. Goodbye. But anyway, then she said, you know, we have a scholarship, and if you're interested in staying, something along those lines, then we'd love to have you back.
You're just the scholarship magnet.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Kudos to you. That is awesome.
I wish I could have gotten some scholarships for graduate school, because that is what is hurting me right now. Lord.
So did you go, like, directly from undergrad to, like, graduate school? Or
no. So, undergrad, I was pre-med, although that was...
Wasn't everybody?
Yeah, you sometimes along the way, like, you're like, how did I get here? Like, why is this my path? And it's just because one day I was like, I want to be a doctor. And granted, I did want to be a doctor, but I didn't know what all the options. Yeah, it's like, okay, a doctor, you could be...
That could mean 100 million things.
Yeah, including a doctor of physical therapy, which is what I eventually did. So, after undergrad, I said, MCAT, all that stuff, which... me and MCAT did not get along. Let's just say that. But I said, you know, if this is something that I really want to pursue, I need to make sure that this is what I actually do. Yeah. So after Duke, I actually went and did a post-bac program, which is kind of if you just want to take more science classes.
My friend Lauren did a very similar thing.
With the potential with the second year for you to actually go into a graduate program and get a master's. So I went and did that in Duquesne. So I ended up in Pittsburgh.
That's
Duquesne is right in the University of Pittsburgh. And so I was there for a year. It was a little frigid up there, especially when it snowed. And they're like, "What? It's finals week. So what?" I'm like, "Really? I'm still coming." Okay.
Supposed to
Better
be
get
in
my
class.
Yeah.
shovel out. Yeah.
So I did that for a year, and then I said, well, I'm not ready to do anything, so I worked in D.C. for a couple of years, doing something completely different from medicine. I, worked at this nonprofit refugee resettlement agency.
Oh, cool.
So the Catholic Charities, their national office in D.C., right here, Catholic University. I worked there 2-3 years. Initially, it was just like a temp job.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can take the tablet, is what he's trying to say.
then they had an open again. Time and again, it's like, oh, we have an opening, so if you're interested in staying. And I was like, this is a world or field that I know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Learn something new.
Yeah. So I did that for a couple of years, and while I was there, I said, because physical therapy was something that had always crossed my mind, and even when I was in school, I had PT with Carrie before, and so but
Carrie's the man.
Yeah,
but I had PT with Carrie.
Everybody knows Carrie.
You're at Duke, you know about Carrie.
So I had considered it before, but part of me thought it was just because I was having doubts about going to med school. But I was like, well, let me just explore this a little bit more and see if it's something that I would be willing or interested in making a career out of. So they had this clinic that was just maybe 5 miles from where my parents lived. I was living at home, which was another experience. So they had evening hours. So after work, a couple days a week, I would go to that clinic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. And this is basically like a little internship, or like
it was
open
just
to anybody?
It was like shadowing.
Okay.
So even I didn't know at the time, but if you go to PT school, you need certain observation hours.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, the first day I went there, I was like, "Yep, this is what I need to be doing."
Oh,
and it was really
good.
because it was like this partnership between the therapist and the patient, and you got to know the patients and about their family, and you saw them more than just the annual physical, or if there was. I mean, obviously, if they were injured, they would come to you for more of an emergent need. Mm-hmm. But I still felt like, okay, you can have direct hands-on contact with someone and make a difference that you can actually see.
Yeah, totally.
and
you can track it over time. And
yeah. So I kept going there just to get more hours, and then I ended up going to University of Maryland, College Park, to take. I retook some of the classes I had taken at Duke. And I was an average student at Duke, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be applying for PT school, I want to at least show an effort that, okay, maybe those weren't my best years, but I'm committed to this. And honestly, when I was an undergrad at Duke, I didn't know Duke had a PT school. And so a friend of mine... Yeah, because Duke tends to push medicine, medical school. They don't say, well, these are the allied health programs. It's just med
and
school.
There's PA school, like Duke has a great nursing program, PA program, PT program, like all these myriad of things, but you don't hear about any of that.
Blinded by the light. So anyway, I ended up applying to 3 or 4 PT schools: Duke, GW, VCU in Delaware, I think. Sounds right. GW would have been convenient because I could have taken the metro. Yeah. But I was like, I'm living at home. Again. Like still.
Reevaluate this.
With nieces and nephews around. I was like.
That I'm expected to babysit.
Right.
The only people that will respect me.
The only people who want this. The only people who are required to respect me because I'm older than them. But then it was like, it's Duke. Like, I loved my time at Duke, and I enjoyed Durham, although my experience with Durham now is different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beyond just shooters chew. So I was like, I'm going back to Duke. So I remember when the lady called me to tell me I got in, I was at work, and so I think she sent me an email, said, when you're free, give me a call. And so she called me, and she was like, are you in a place that's quiet? And I'm like, I can be if I need to. And so when she told me, it's like, well, I'm at work. I can't scream like, yes, I got in. So it was a quiet celebration. But internally, I was very excited.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then back to Durham. Back to the dirty D.
How was PT school? Was it
PT school was hard. Oh my goodness. My first year, my hair was breaking off.
Dr. Taylor?
I did.
So did I.
For anatomy.
Yes.
And then later for... our kinematics class. She co-taught something else with somebody else. We had it for anatomy and palpation.
Yeah. That's
the
class I had her
She was my advisor too.
Oh, you told me about that.
Yeah. That was
She could never know your name.
No.
Oh.
Like, oh my God. Like,
How does your advisor
better.
not know your name? Like, that is not
Exactly.
good.
Well,
this.
we all have our priorities in life, right?
True.
Apparently.
Anyway.
No, so yeah, first year was hard. We were in class all the time. Even one night a week, we didn't get out of class until like 9.
Yeah, just the anatomy and palpation course was like 20 hours, like per week, like some ridiculous amount. So I only know this because I took that class because my advisor at the time wanted me to take a cadaveric dissection class, and so I emailed the head of the med school and I emailed the head of the PT school to see can we do this class.
Yeah.
And the medical school was like, nope. And the PT school was like, I mean, sure, we can fit you in. But then that meant I had to do, like, all of the stuff, like the embryology, the histology. Like, we were in class all the time. And we had to show up in, like, professional clothes for a lot of this stuff. And I'm just like, I'm walking, like, a mile, like, at 7 a.m. to get this. And you're expecting me to dissect this cadaver and have all this professional clothes in my backpack. And it did, like, it was a lot.
A little absurd.
And that was just one class. So the other people in my group, I assume you did the team-based, did they have the team-based learning at that time?
We were the last class
that
who
didn't
did the
have
traditional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone else in my, like, group also had additional classes. And I had additional engineering classes and stuff, too. But I got the impression from them that it was a very full schedule.
Yeah. So, and I didn't drink coffee at the time, which, looking back, is like, how did you get through life?
Yeah.
And then I became, not that I'm addicted to coffee, but I discovered coffee.
Or coffee discovered you. It was all that timing, right?
Yeah, I did try 5-hour energy one time, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
No.
Yeah, that was the worst.
Let me tell you, but the crazy thing, my heart rate was elevated, and then I just went to sleep. I was like, this is not why I took this.
This is not normal.
Heart rate 120, and I'm sleeping. Someone should
I keep breathing.
Someone should be monitoring me.
I think I discovered coffee when I was working in the football office. And, like, there would be mornings where I just, like, I gotta have a coffee.
Yeah.
And then at night, like, I would not be able to go to sleep to save my life. So, like, the next day I'd be dead tired and need some coffee.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah. I have learned that, like, to be very selective when I do coffee. Like, to be very, very selective.
No coffee after 5 or after noon.
Oh, like, if I drink coffee, it's got to be, like, before 10 a.m.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So, first year was hard. Then, after that, it wasn't so bad.
It's a 2-year program or 3 years? It's 3 years.
And this is where you met Rosie? Or was Rosie
one
of your instructors? Or?
I met Rosie. She was undergrad. She was my original year, 04.
So, hold on. For the people that may not know, who is Rosie?
So, Rosie Canizara, she's another physical therapist. She's actually like Mrs. Duke, her family.
I was just going to say, she's the biggest
a lot
Duke
of people
fan
her
you'll
family
ever
went to Duke. Season ticket holders for basketball, football.
Goes to everything.
Yeah, she's a cheerleader at Duke for when we were there for undergrad.
So that's how I know her, is through the cheerleading.
And she went to PT school at Duke. She went undergrad, then PT school.
Okay.
So when I was looking at PT school, I was in touch with her about Duke's program. So I knew her in undergrad, although we weren't really friends then. Later when I came back, it was really when we became friends. Well, we had mutual friends as well.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, PT school was good. I had some very interesting clinical rotations. One at the Butner Federal Prison for 5 months, which was all male. That was an experience. I got to go out to Arizona for how much? Do you need me to reverse and go back to the Butner experience?
Yeah, I'm just
curious. I did on that one.
I tell people, I've been in prison. Like, even one of my coworkers at the VA now, he went to UNC Chapel Hill for PT school, and we had a little bit of overlap. So I think our overlap maybe been a month or two. So when I came to the VA years later, I remember my supervisor was like, "Oh, I think you know someone there," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I do know him." So I'm like, "Hey, yeah, we met in prison." People were like, "Wait, what?" Yeah, so they have I know. So they have it's a 5-month. I think the timing of it is a little bit different, but 20-week rotation where, just like in any other site, you would work with different physical therapists there. And so the physical therapy that you provide for individuals in prison, well, at least here, a little bit different. So it's not so much hands-on unless that's absolutely needed, meaning not that you can't touch the inmates or the prisoners, however you want to refer to them, but if you're doing manual therapy, I guess in some respects that would be the last line if there are other ways for you to provide an intervention. Now, the interesting thing about being there is you sometimes had to wonder if it was for some alternate gains as to why they were requesting
Interesting.
PT. And what I mean by that, not like, oh, they want some female to touch them.
Because they could get a male PT, right?
Right.
They don't really know going in whether they're going to get a female or a male PT.
So one thing, for example, is the beds that they sleep on. And saying, oh, something small, like I want an egg crate or a topper. Something that we certainly take for granted. If we want to change our bed, we change it.
Yeah.
Right? We want a memory foam, we just add it.
Yeah.
They don't have that luxury. So they have egg crates, or at least they had egg crates. So it's like, well, how do you get one? Oh, I have back pain. Did you just get back pain? Or chronic back pain? Oh, I have chronic back pain. Okay, I need an egg crate. So it's like, wait a minute. How do you know if someone's telling the truth about back pain?
Yes.
Can't. All right, we'll send it to physical therapy. Physical therapy can help with back pain. So it's like, if you're asking for this, you need to really put in the work to show that this...
I'm trying to get this better.
Yeah.
This didn't work. I need an egg crate. Now, after a while, I was like, they were breaking it down. Like, how much money are we spending at the facility on buying egg crates for these
providing
people?
This treatment when you could have just given them an egg crate.
But, no. So it wasn't like the PTs were so overbooked where it's like, okay, we can't be providing pain. And honestly, sometimes they might not come out and say, I want an egg crate. They might just have back pain.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they're like, oh, well, can I get an egg crate?
Yeah.
So it would be hard to differentiate those who are asking. But it's like, you need to put in the work if we're going to look into getting this for you. But then there's like, what does the research show on management of back pain with having an egg crate? So then it was like, after a while, I was like, well, maybe we should just not be providing egg crates at all because this is ridiculous. Go to something else like one of those rollator walkers, the walkers with the 4 wheels and a seat on it and brakes. So you might say, why would anyone want that unless they needed it? Think about it. It has a basket. So you got to go to commissary. You got to carry stuff back. Maybe put stuff in there. Going to play cards in the yard. Oh, there's a seat here. I can use it as a table.
Right.
Oh, somebody else needs this. I can rent it to them.
Yeah, in a place where items and
resources
resources are limited, any resource is a benefit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even if it's something someone on the outside may not necessarily perceive as, like, useful.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I can definitely see.
So you always have to watch out for that. And they would always have to have a list to account for items that they were issued by staff. And every once in a while they would do sweeps or checks to say, oh, you have this, let me look at my list. What's your name? This was never issued to you, so that the person who it belonged to, now you didn't need it because someone else had it. Let me have that back. Yeah. It was very interesting.
Look into the kind of prison system.
But, I enjoyed it, and part of me, the reason why I enjoyed it, because that's a part of the population that's forgotten, or very marginalized. And some people have issues and say, well, why do people in prison need physical therapy? And it's a fair question. But just because they're in there doesn't mean they don't have rights or they don't have needs.
We talked about this on a previous podcast, actually.
Yeah.
There was a prison strike going on, but it's kind of what we came to the conclusion is, like, most prisoners, the eventuality is they come out, right? And so, like, it's not that you go into this black hole and any problem that you have, you know what I mean? Like, if the goal is to rehabilitate people to be members of society later, we can't just turn our backs on them while they're in that rehabilitation process.
But I think that even leads to a bigger question, like, while that's the stated goal, is it really?
Right.
And is that being
in practice?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that could be another podcast. I personally don't feel like the prison systems are in place to rehab or to...
Oh, totally not. If they were, they would look very different, I feel like.
But anyway, that was.
So how was it emotionally? Was it like, were you feeling really like empathetic and drained when you left? Were you scared? Were you just, this is another opportunity to practice my PT?
I personally was never scared, and maybe it was just me being naive. I could look around and say, if this person wanted to, he could just sprint towards me and just...
Ain't nothing I can do.
Yeah, and I'd just be gone. But they, with the other therapists who worked at the staff there, they had established an environment where the inmates tended to respect the staff. And that even though I was a student, I never felt disrespected by any of the inmates there. When I first got there, taking the tour, I certainly felt everyone knew I was new. Like, they looked at me. And I already don't like having eyes on me, period. And now I'm walking into this all-male prison.
Everybody's eyes are on you.
Yeah.
Nothing new happened.
I almost felt like I was on a runway. I'm like, I'm not here to model. But I'm walking down, and you guys are in your bunks, and I'm just like... But, and the other thing is, I don't like to ignore people or not make eye contact with people.
Yeah.
Even, walking the street, there's people, if it's someone who's homeless or someone who you don't know, or someone who you would like to avoid, I feel like that's very rude to not acknowledge someone.
Right.
But it's like, but there's a fine line between, it's like, have a second glance and look away, because I'm in prison, I'm not here to hang out, and I'm not even here to necessarily be cordial with people who I'm not providing a service to. So that was a tricky thing for me. But you just follow the lead of whoever your clinical instructor was, and that was fine. I did get to go into the SHU, which that's the special housing unit, where it's like 23-hour lockdown.
Like you're by yourself, right?
So, solitary confinement, they come outside for an hour, but they're usually by themselves. So that was kind of, it's like, how does someone stay sane if they're in this box for 23
hours a day?
Yeah. So that was...
Well, I wonder what the research behind why they do it that way. Because there has to be I would hope that there's something that says this is good. This is good for the management of the overall prison.
Oh, I thought it was more of a, how can we make this punishment more worse than just having your liberties taken away and you're in jail? Like, how can we make this a worse experience for you? Or you're such a danger to others.
So so that's what I mean. You're such a danger that we have to put you. There has to be some research, or at least I would hope that there's some research that says the prison, in order for the prison to function more efficiently and overall, we need to put this person in solitary confinement in the SHU. And so I wonder how that process came about.
Yeah. It's certainly a matter of, I need to control this person who's out of control. I need them to not disrupt. Or at least
that's the narrative that was probably put out there.
I need them to not disrupt the order that we're trying to establish with everyone else. Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, they need to be hidden so that the others can't see them, and also they can't see the others, and they can't be heard.
Communicate, yeah.
So, but the toughest part was they had a mental health unit. Now, one of I think it was a recreational therapist and maybe also an occupational therapist who had taken me down there. The crazy thing is, here I am walking amongst prisoners. They're not in handcuffs. They're in this room doing whatever activities they're doing their job or what have you. And it's very surreal because they're clearly medicated enough where I'm safe amongst them. Great. I'm not in a room and surrounded by them, but I'm kind of going through, and the staff, they're making their rounds, and to hear about some of their stories, not from them but from staff or people that you've heard about on the news, you're like, oh yeah, I did hear about that story. Wow, that's him right here.
Yeah. And
then you hear about their upbringing or how they might have been abused or neglected, and I felt sad because I said, this person never had a chance to have a normal life. Yeah. And I'm like, this is not fair. This could have very easily been me.
Right.
Or
Or any of
something.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, you make a wrong decision, even if it's something like, okay, well, you had too much to drink and then you made a bad decision and that led to you being here. And it's like, so that was the roughest time going there, realizing these are people who look like me. They look like my neighbor. They look like my family. And they're here. And this is their life. This is, tomorrow's not going to be any different than today for them. And I get to leave. Yes, when I come in, I have to make sure I don't bring a fork or a knife in. And I can't bring my cell phone in, but that's a minor thing that I have to forego. And I get to go home and do whatever I want to. So that part of it.
Egg crate if you want.
I know. So that was the toughest. The other days, not saying that I didn't care, but the other days were easy compared to that.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a friend who, even when I was going there, he was concerned that I would. I'm not even sure how he put it, but he was just like, he was just concerned for me emotionally going into a place like that would absolutely drain me or change me in a way that was not good for me once I was done.
Yeah, because I asked the question because when you mentioned you had this experience, I was just like, wow, what would I, like, before I've never had that experience, before I had that, what would be my expectations or my concerns? And I don't think I would be scared as much for my safety, because I know, like, kind of like you mentioned, they have all these things in place, but I'd be more scared for just any type of, like, emotional reaction. So that was really interesting insight.
And you hear about, because there were some inmates who worked exclusively within the physical therapy area. So let's say there's a wheelchair technician. He's an inmate, but he has a special assignment to work there. So even in just talking with him or others, hearing about what led them to where they were, and then you start thinking about politics, right? So whether it's 3 strikes, you go in for an extended period of time, the whole debate about crack versus cocaine, how that actually impacts people who are in there, or people who don't have adequate representation. They might take a deal that they think they understand, and then they're like, whoa, I'm going to be in here for how long? Like, I didn't do this, or this wasn't explained to me. So then you're like, ooh, it makes you aware of different parts of society or different parts of politics that otherwise I just ignore because again, I'm like, it doesn't affect your life. Yeah. I'm just like, that's terrible.
Totally.
And I'm only hearing one person's story or a handful of people's stories.
Yeah, there are hundreds of thousands of prisons across the country.
Do you hear things that you see on TV where the pedophiles, the inmates don't like them, so a lot of times they're separated because otherwise they'll be attacked. So even within prison, they have their own moral compass. Certain things that are just not okay amongst criminals. Or amongst criminals that have been caught. And the other thing is talking about the socioeconomic divide, right? So if you think about it, if, let's say if you need surgery, don't have money for it, if you live or you can die. If you went to prison or jail, you have the right to that procedure if you need it. You don't have to pay for it. You know you're going to get 3 meals. These are options some people weigh.
Like this, I think we talked about that with like some homeless people, like commit crimes on purpose to get sent to jail because it's the better option in their perspective. Which, I mean, if I'm out here starving, you know what I mean? Like, didn't feel like I had any other option. You can't really blame them for that choice.
Wild.
It's crazy.
So yes, that was prison in a nutshell.
Wow, things I did not expect to be talking about today. This is excellent.
So after, I guess, after graduation from PT school, you went out to California?
Oh, no. So after
you went back up to...
I did.
You went back up to Maryland.
I've been
Baltimore.
So, here's the thing. After PT school, I went back home to Maryland. This is PG County, still right outside of D.C. I did home health PT for a year. 6 or so months in, I was like, I gotta get out. Like, driving in D.C., parking in D.C.
So you would go to patients' homes?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, man.
So you talk about risk, right? There are no guards.
Right.
You walk in
Just
there. I don't know
roll
who's
in
behind the
somebody's
door.
house.
I mean, I've had this guy who his home security, he just had a machete behind the door. I'm like, sir. Yeah. I had a patient who, I mean, I talk about, I don't know if you've ever looked in someone's eyes and saw death, but I was like, I need to leave. This is not safe.
Oh,
It's like looking in her eyes. It's like the eyes. If you watch a scary movie and someone's eyes just get black, it's like, I'm gonna go.
And that's my cue to leave.
Yeah. This is not working. My supervisor will be in touch. Goodbye. Yeah.
Wow, yikes.
So I did that for a year, and I was like, nah, I can't do this. So I came back to
Can't risk
Durham.
my life on a daily basis.
No. And if I have to come to your house and like sit on a trash bag because I don't want to touch your furniture, that's also a problem.
Yeah.
Oof. Where I have to shake my clothes, shake my jacket when I leave. It's like, So I went back to Durham. That was my third time going to Durham.
She loves Durham.
I couldn't get
She
away.
can't stay away. She keeps trying, but it keeps sucking her back in.
I might stay put this time. Maybe. Think about it. It's almost a year now since I've been back.
Oh.
So I did the geriatric residency at the VA. Then after that is when I went to California, LA for 2 years. LA.
How'd you like LA?
La La Land.
La La Land.
Yes. So I went out there because there was a job, for one. And then
Gotta get the bag. Gotta get the bag.
And a sister of mine lived out there. So the one who's 2 years older than me, she lives out there. So I was like, I'm unattached. I don't have kids. When would I ever consider moving from the East Coast to the West?
Yeah.
And it's LA. I was like,
Why not?
I'll try it out. I've been to LA. I went to LA once when I played volleyball. We had a tournament out there. But, you go
Yeah.
you don't get
You
to
have
do
to
anything.
experience the city.
Well,
But at
to
least you could
dinner.
ask your sister about what it was like, and ideally she'd give you an honest answer.
Oh, yeah, she would give me an honest answer. But her activities are a little different than mine.
Okay.
So, but there were a number of girls who I played volleyball with from California. Excuse me. And a number of them were in the LA area. So that ultimately helped get me kind of acclimated to life in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole nother world out there. Like, truly, La La Land is the only way to describe it. I'm asking myself, like, what is wrong with people? Or why do people, what is going on?
Can you give us, like, one example of, like,
Well, first off, driving is like,
nightmare.
you got to say your prayers, get your rosary beads before you leave, because you can just turn out of your driveway and it's like, who drives that way? Going from on the 405, the first time I got on the 405, merging, check in, car from, and I think some sections of 405 have, I don't know, maybe up to 6 lanes.
Yeah.
Far left lane, all the way across, because they needed to get off at that exit right when I was
Getting on.
Oh.
And I was like, welcome.
And in California, the motorcycles are allowed to go. Like, if you have 2 lanes of cars, the motorcycles are allowed to go in the middle.
Well, people do that anyway.
Yeah.
But that's terrifying. I hate
It is.
that. Oh,
I feel
my
like
God.
that's a very, like, common occurrence. Like,
I
anytime I see
Not
a motorcycle,
here.
I expect a motorcycle to go in between.
Oh, I sit on the
lanes.
highways here all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anytime I see a motorcycle, I'm like, I expect you to go in between and
I mean,
swerve
I'm
through
always worried
traffic.
about it. But
Especially if there's, like, a traffic jam or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
So I would
continue
say,
around La La
generally
Land.
people, I don't want to say they're not genuine, but it's common for someone to say, oh yeah, I'll be in touch, or let's do this. Granted, people do that here.
Yes.
But it's people say it and do it all the time. That it's really hard to form friendships with people who are from LA or who have been in LA, unless it's part of a network that you have some affiliation with already. So the people who I befriended there were really people from my church, my sister, and then girls in the volleyball team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Duke alum who happened to be out there. Who I was like, hey, I didn't know you were here. But really, besides that, because everyone, there are a lot of people who are there who aren't from LA, and they're there for a reason just beyond, oh, I got a job. Like, if they're trying to break into the business. So it's like, are you really here to help me with that? No, okay, then
Right.
why
we don't
do
need
we
to know each other.
Why?
Yeah.
Right. And clearly I wasn't there for that. So I met some people who I'm still friends with from work too. But if you had just gone out there just not knowing anyone, I'd be like, ooh, good luck. Yeah, maybe ask a friend to connect you with their friends. Because otherwise it's going to be a little tough.
Interesting.
Yeah. I remember the first time it rained. I thought I was in a different city. I was like, wait a minute, because there's this, it's almost like a cloud if you're trying to see, you don't even have to be downtown. So we're in Culver City, which is probably, 30 minutes from downtown LA, 30 or so, depending on traffic. So you will look down the street and you can see a certain distance. And then it rained and I was like, whoa, I can see
Way far.
the mountains from here. I didn't know that was there. Because there's so much just smog there that, and once you're in it for a while, you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And I remember when I left there and came back to North Carolina or the East Coast, I'm like, there's so much green here. The air is so fresh.
It's not smogged up.
No, it's so crazy.
Things you don't realize.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is two different cities. One when it's not raining and when it rarely rains, and then one covered in smoke.
Thanks.
Yeah. But there's much to do in LA.
Much to do.
Yeah, regardless of what your interests are, you can certainly find something to do.
So what did you do when you were not working?
That's when I did a lot of hiking.
Nice. And once you discovered the mountains.
I know. My favorite hike was
another world open.
Yeah, my favorite hike was to the Hollywood sign.
Oh, cool.
Well, so technically, you can't touch the Hollywood letters. If you hike up from behind, there's a fence behind it, so you can probably be within, 10, 15 feet from it from behind, but you're behind the fence. To see it from the front, you're like, quarter of a mile, half a mile.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, let me zoom in with my camera phone. A little blurry, but that was nice. It's like, I think it's 7.5 miles round trip, which is nice. Ooh. They have, it's a nice little hike, and especially if it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you how long it took, but it sounds like it took a while.
Hour and a half, maybe.
7 miles? An hour and a half?
I mean, you can
hour and a half up, an hour and a half.
So when you're coming down, obviously it doesn't take as long to go
and
up.
Just regular walking out of flat ground, you can do 2 or 3 miles in 1 hour, like easy peasy. So if you're actually working and if you're actually like
on a mission,
on a mission, I could see it being a 2-hour hike.
Yeah,
easily.
You
and if you got long legs like Tassy.
So the first time I did that hike was actually through a Duke group. So Duke is just taking over the world. Let's just be clear.
We everywhere.
Yes. But they had these different events, and I think this was like a Duke active event.
Was it like a Duke in LA group?
Yeah. And so we met at the bottom of we met in the parking lot, and then as a group we went up. And they talked about if we need to take breaks, there are different shaded areas, so we'll stop and all that. So that was the first time I did it. So I got to meet some people, some Duke alum through that. And then when I went to visit another time, I went back to that. But I've done other hikes. They have in Culver City. They have these Culver City steps, which I'll have to show you a picture of it. As you're approaching it, you're like, "Whoa! I gotta go to the top." You can go. Yeah, you can. There's a path.
Good thing I was an elite athlete.
Man, elite athlete or not, that is a workout. And let me tell you, by the time I was in LA, I was not even close to being an elite athlete. Working out a couple times a week, maybe.
On a good week.
Right, on a good week. So you can take a winding path around, or there's a road that led to the top. And once you're on the top, it's a great view. You can see the city, Culver City. Probably you can even see parts of Santa Monica there. But there's steps. They're uneven. The distance, the height of the steps vary. The depth of the steps also vary. And the people on the steps also varied. Like people. So what? You'd have people going up the steps, stopping to take a selfie. I'm like, look, I do not have time to break my stride so that I don't knock you down. And why did you bring your 2-year-old on this walk who's now sitting on the step? Or why are you taking a rest break on the steps?
Yeah.
There's only enough space for one person to go up and one person to come down. There's a dirt path along the side, so if you needed to step around someone, you could. But if you need to do any extracurricular activities besides the actual workout, you need to be on the side.
Yeah.
And people would not always do that. Like, why would you come on this
jam? Yeah.
Why? With your flip-flops and your camera, why are you here? Yeah, so that was a nice workout. Honestly, if you went up and down, I mean, going up one time was a workout. If you went up twice and came down, you'd be like, I accomplished something today.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was nice. We had different concerts. The Hollywood Bowl was a nice venue.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I got to see, I saw Erykah Badu out there.
Ooh.
She's always a good show.
Yeah.
Her, and I think I went to a jazz concert out there. And one thing that was very fascinating was, Bugs Bunny and orchestra. So what they would do, it was a Looney Tunes event.
Yeah.
So you would go there, they would have the cartoon on the screen, but they would have a live
music?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Which was so fascinating when they go to commercial, when they would lead into a commercial, come out of commercial, even some of the sound effects, you'd have the orchestra there live playing it. So I was like, this is kind of neat. And apparently they have that everywhere.
I've never heard of it.
Had been introduced to it.
Never heard of it being here.
Yeah.
Should look into it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So those were my favorite things to do. And obviously they have a bunch of beaches. Which you say, if you're near the beach, you'll say, oh, I'm going to go to the beach a lot. Most people don't actually do that because you kind of take it for granted that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But I did try to make it a point to go at least monthly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So Santa Monica is the beach where if you want to people watch, you go there. Because it's like a circus. Literally like a circus.
It's like a circus.
So they have a Ferris wheel there. They have different activities going on the actual Santa Monica Pier.
Mm-hmm.
But then coming off of the pier, they have... It's almost like a playground. So I don't know what it's called where you have... It's almost like a tightrope.
Oh, like a slack line?
Perhaps.
It's like thin, but also
wide. So you have people bouncing on that.
Yeah.
You have people climbing up things. And you have people just randomly around doing whatever. You're like, what? Is this a circus? Is this a fair? But that's every day.
An outdoor gym kind of area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's every day in Santa Monica.
People rollerblading?
Yes. All of that.
That's hilarious.
So
it's on my to-do list to go to LA. I've never been to LA before. Been to California for a football game, but
I think I tell people if you've never been to LA, it's definitely something worth experiencing. Living in LA, most people who I met who were not from there, they say, oh, it normally takes 3 to 5 years before you say, yeah, I'm staying. I'm like, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if you decide, you know what, after 35 years, no, I'm good. It's like I just wasted 35 years trying to decide that this is going to be my new home.
Sounds like there's a lot to love, but a lot to hate.
Yeah.
You can't make that choice.
My favorite thing about being on the West Coast was sports, especially during football season, because you could watch football at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
You wake up and there's a game on, you're like, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. Sunday night, Monday night football, you're like, I can watch the whole game and then go to sleep.
At a reasonable time.
Yeah. I said, this is the way to live.
I've heard this from numerous people about living on the West Coast. Like, you literally wake up and then you go to sleep and have not missed a single thing in the sporting world.
These late night NBA games that come on 10:30 Eastern time, 7:30. Like, I can do this. Yeah, it was fantastic.
I can understand that.
Yes.
And then so, kind of to close this out, what brought you back here to Durham for the 4th?
Yeah, what made you decide no to LA after only 2 years?
So it was actually a year in where I was like, this is not going to work. The job that I had, they were going to try to run me into the ground. And I realized that fairly quickly after being there. And my thing is, LA is not a place, even if I loved LA, I couldn't imagine saying this is where I want to be long term.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My family on the East Coast and
country.
traveling coast to coast, red eyes, oh my goodness, those things were, it's like the best and worst way to travel.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't want to lose time in the air, so let me travel while I would normally be asleep. But if you sleep on a plane, which I sleep on every flight I've ever been on, even if it's a 30-minute flight, I'm asleep. Usually before we even take off. But it's not restful sleep.
No.
Yeah,
So you get here, you're a zombie. You go lay on the couch for
You're
half the day, and then you're like, oh yeah, why did I do a red eye?
Yeah.
So that was a bit much. And I said, the job that I'm in the VA, this is not sustainable for my career path.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to stay physical therapist, I can't stay here. So it's like, well, am I really going to look for a job outside of the VA to stay? Because now I have to get in the VA, you don't have to have a license in the state where you practice. You just have to have a state license.
Gotcha.
So, like, am I going to get a or California license? Am I really going to go through the process of leaving the federal government to get a job in the private sector?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no. So that meant when I leave this job, I'm leaving LA.
Mm-hmm.
So I had always wanted to go back to North Carolina. Like, if there was a job at the VA in North Carolina, I would not have moved to LA.
Gotcha.
They didn't have it. Again, timing can work for you or against you. Timing was bad. So I left. And even when the time when I was back in Maryland, my mom was like, oh, I know you'll probably end up in North Carolina. And I'm like, yeah, probably. But there's a job that opened up in D.C. and Baltimore. So I applied to both. I got an unofficial offer for the one in D.C. Mm-hmm. That later I got a letter saying they rescinded the job offer, which I'm like, well, technically I didn't get a formal one.
You're like, but I never rejected the optional interview. Why are you taking
I know.
What is that on the screen?
It's okay.
So, and actually I think that's a blessing in disguise because the VA in D.C. has been under some hot water since that time. But then when Baltimore opened up, and I was like, Baltimore, that could work. It's 40 miles from where my parents live. I'm not in their backyard. I'm not going to be living at home again. And Baltimore is a city that I'd been to but hadn't really explored. Mm-hmm. So, in downtown Baltimore, that was another experience. So, LA was nice, but downtown Baltimore where I was catching a bus into work. And people from every walk of life are on that bus. Mm-hmm. I mean, people at 6 a.m. wasted from
the night before, or wasted because that's how they start their day. I mean, I was like, what is going on? Children on the bus, old people on the bus, people in wheelchairs, polite people, rude people. I mean, everything was on the bus. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And honestly, I enjoyed the job. And I really become content. I said, you know what? If I don't end up in North Carolina, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. And then, dun, 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 the lady who was the program director for the geriatric residency that I did in 13-14, she decided to retire. Now, she had told me when I was leaving before that she was considering retiring. But I'd been gone for several years. She had been saying that every year. And I'm just like, timing. Yeah, and when I first moved to LA, I was like, I might have thinking, I just moved to LA. I'm not about to move right back. Yeah.
So she called me one day and was like, yep, I'm retiring in like 2 weeks. I was like, whoa, what? I've been at that job for just under a year.
The one in Baltimore?
Mm-hmm. I was like, this is a trend. I just can't stay put for longer than a year. Like, LA, 2 years was the longest job that I had as a PT. Considering that was a place that I was trying to get out of. I said, how ironic. That's the place I've been the longest. So, anyway, long story short, I applied for the job. They offered the job, and then I moved back down here. It all happened within, I don't know, less than a month.
Wow.
So it was like, hey, boss, I need to talk to you. And then that conversation kept getting delayed. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm so sorry that you didn't have time to meet with me, but by the way, I'm leaving.
Right. Here's my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah. Now, I didn't feel too bad because it's not like I just left from a physical therapy position to another physical therapy position. This was a promotion, so to speak, more responsibility. So that's what brought me back. And Durham certainly has grown enough where it's not just the same old Durham.
No, it is definitely not the same.
Yeah.
It's totally different, yeah.
So it's different enough, but also familiar enough. Although, that Duke, that's not the same school where I went.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
All that construction.
Dude.
Yeah, the dining,
Yeah.
everything. I'm like, this is not the same school. But I like it.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Very jealous. I'm so jealous.
Hating a little bit or a lot. But, yeah, so that's how I ended up back down here. And like I said, it's about a year since I've been here that I got a lease renewal notice. I was like, wait, what?
One more year and it'll be the longest time.
I know. So it's like, I'm getting that 1 year itch. Like, okay, what do I need to do now?
Yeah, what's the next job?
Am I staying or? But the job that I have, it's not a job that you tend to just pass through. Granted, I don't think that'll be my last career move.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think
longer than a 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Stint.
Yeah. So I imagine that I'll stay put for at least a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes. And I have friends here, or a friend or
Sure.
two.
I mean, you and Hattie, I guess. Are we still friends after the
Oh my
lack of
goodness!
communication?
You know what? That
So-
honestly.
Backstory. There are a couple of meeting arrangements that like Tassy and I had come up with, and through my lack of communication, just didn't go as according to plan.
It wasn't quite as smooth.
Yes, as it should have been because of my lack of communication. But I think
We're good. If I'd only known you for like a few weeks, then we've been done.
Yeah.
But so just quickly, you talked about that. I don't know the year that I actually met you. You were class of.
so. I was due class of 2008.
So technically,
So were you John Talley's class, Dion?
no.
So you were older than them?
Mm-hmm. So technically, my senior year, which would have been, my original senior year would have been 2004. So that was fall of 2004. Was that your first semester?
Yes.
Yeah. So the fact that I stayed for a fifth year, that's the only
The
way that we
Overlap.
overlap. Yeah. So our time as
So I feel
undergrads together
Was
was
Well,
only
I
a
felt
year.
I felt like, because I felt like there was a summer where like you were here.
Well, she was in PT school here.
So no.
Like, when she was in PC, like
You're right. There was a summer where I'd already graduated, but I was
Yeah,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
that must have been it. Because I feel like that's when we like kind of like became friends because
Yeah.
they're like we have like little like pre games on like Central.
Yeah.
And like everyone would come, and then like the women's lacrosse team had like a house, and like everybody would go there and hang out.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of feel like it was this. I feel like it was the summer after my freshman year. So the summer of 2005 that like we became friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
Central.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Beer pong at random person's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right for Central.
Natty Light. Yeah. Oof. Lord. Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time I met you.
Oh, I do. See, I remember the first time we met, and that's the first time we met.
Well, what was the first time you guys met?
So I was going to the reunion. It was our 5-year reunion, and I went with Lauren and Josh, and then we met up with like a bunch of other girls from cheerleading. And you were out of town. I forget where you were.
I think I was at
you were at
Rob's
like a last man
basketball.
standing or something.
Was it? I thought
Maybe it was
Rob's
basketball. You were not there because you
I'm
had
pretty
some
sure it's
prior
Rob,
commitment. But you had told me like, oh, my friend Tassy's going to be there. I wish I was going to be there. I have all these people I want to see. And he had told me about you, and I was like, man, cool. So anyway, I get there, and I had been drinking. And we're all wearing these giant name tags. I'm just sitting there. Lauren's trying to get a picture with, like, Grant Hill or somebody, like, as she does.
It's a must.
Yeah, and so I'm just, like, sitting there, like, waiting for Lauren to be finished. And I look across from me, and there's this woman wearing this name tag. This is Tassy. I'm like, Tassy, hi!
I remember.
I walked right up to her, and I was like, oh my god!
As if we were like long lost friends. Like, so good to see you. Yes, I remember that. Because I think when I must have asked you if you were going to be around, you were like, no, I'm out of town, but my girlfriend Hattie's going to be there. And so when you came, when you said, hey, and I was like, hey, like, I just heard about it.
Well, because it was like either that earlier that day or like the night prior, I had heard all about you, and then there you appeared.
Yes.
It was perfect timing.
It was meant to be.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So sorry that our first meeting was not that
memorable.
Yeah.
Well, our friendship has lasted beyond that.
Yeah,
so
this is very true.
I am
Standing the
thankful
test
for
of
that.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Tassy, and Hattie, thanks for joining us. It's been great sitting down and talking to you. And
Yeah, lots
Hearing
of
your
really
story.
interesting stuff.
Thanks for having me. I feel like we have to do this again because there are a lot of topics that we...
yeah, we could discuss. We'd love to get your opinion on it.
Yes.
Yes. The only topics that we will not do is choking. The definition of choking in sports. We're not doing that.
Not doing that.
We've already done that one.
Yeah.
It was
air.
so long, like Super Bowl
And it keeps
Sunday.
coming back.
No.
And we just need to put it to rest.
Yeah, and we will not discuss Washington and Dallas, though I'm curious.
Yeah, we're about to turn the game back on, actually, and
Yeah.
watch the Cowboys come out with the victory, I hope.
Nope.
So, thanks, everybody, for joining.
And thank you, Tassy. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tassy.
Yes, my pleasure.